Backlight 4.1. So the first thing I'm going to do is show you a few examples I've prepared, then we'll go into some setup, and then we'll actually dig into the module itself, and I'll show you how to use it. So an essay in Backlight is basically just an album, but it's an album that allows you to blend images and text in kind of an arbitrary way. So let's take a look at what I mean by that. If I go into this album, which is an essay, you can see at the top I have a styled heading. I have a big image, which looks like a hero image, although in this case it's not. Then some text, and then I've got some images at the bottom. And this is a slideshow, as you might expect. So that's relatively simple. So let me back out again and go into an essay that is much more complex. This is about a field trip I took when I was an English teacher back in Korea in 2002. So again, styled heading, big images, or big image, and then some words, and then another image. We come down, I've got a grid of images, and these are all, you can click into them, they're a slideshow. Some more words, a grid of images in a different size, some more words, a big image, an image grid, some words, some info here, some more grids of different size, and then we end it all off with some more words. So as you can see, what essay allows you to do is mix images and words in a linear narrative. And that's basically what the thing is for. For the last example I prepared is just this, and this is one that just has these words here. And it's just a simple image grid. I could almost do this with a gallery. The difference is that I don't necessarily think that this set of images works as a gallery in sort of my website portfolio, but I certainly think it works as in the essay format. So there are some quick examples, and let me get into setting up the website, or how I've set up my website to accommodate essays. Now, the first thing to understand is that essays are just another kind of album. So if you want to, you can mix them with existing albums, and that'll work just fine. You just drop them into your existing album sets or whatever. What I've chosen to do on my site is to separate my galleries and my essays into different sections. And so in my menu, I've got galleries, which is my more standard image, my albums, my album sets, what you would expect from an existing Backlight website. And then I've added this new section for essays. And what I'm doing here is I'm using Pangolin Journal to set up the album set view, and then Pangolin Essay for the actual essays themselves. I have created an album set that is essays, and I've chosen to organize my essays by year. So my 2021 essays are an album set, and next year I'll start a 2022 essays album set. But because I want people to jump to my newest material when they're in my navigation, I've linked the essays item directly to that 2021 set. And then next year, I'll update the navigation to point to 2022. And if at some point I decide I don't want to do that anymore, I can just have this point to the main essays set if that's what I want. And this allows me to have my essays in what is probably going to be like their final location, so that I have permalinks set up from the get-go with the years built into them. So that style of organization is very blog-like. You can see I've also got this drafts set, and I think this is important when you're writing something because we don't want it to publish. So because we're working with albums, back in Backlight 3, we added RSS feeds. And so we've got this feed. So you can see that the most recent things I've published, here's the Things Fall Apart essay, here's the Mud Day essay, and here's the In Time All Things Blur essay. So they appear in my RSS feeds. And we don't want something to appear here when it's still a rough draft. before it's published. So we need some way of not publishing the album until we're ready. So you could do that by just hiding the album from the album set. You could do it by setting a future publish date. I have chosen to create this drafts set. So this is an album set inside of my essays. Sorry, and essays, in case it wasn't clear before, I've created that as a top level set. So I've got galleries and essays side by side at the top level of my website. So diving into essays, I've got my 2021 set. I've got my draft set. And you can see I've got some icons up here to indicate that it's hidden and private. So the way that I accomplished that was I just, you add a new album set. You call it drafts. I opted to use just my standard set template for the drafts. You can use whatever you want. Then come down into features. I set this to private and hide from album set. And that's all there was to that. I'm not actually going to create this because I already have my drafts. But then when I want to create a new essay, I go into drafts. I add an album. I'm going to call this demo essay. I select the essay template that I want to use. Again, make sure it's in drafts. And what I'll do is when I'm done with it, when I'm ready to publish, I'll take it here and I'll move it to 2021 essays and then save it. And that will move it to the public location where people can view it. It will also then appear in my RSS feed. So for now, drafts. And then I'm going to save that. So this, of course, assumes you have an essay template. So you would have had to go into the designer beforehand to create that template. And we'll get there momentarily. But first, I'm going to add photos that are going to appear in my essay, just like you would for any other album. You need to add photos first. So I've got a folder full of images here that we're going to use for this demonstration. I'm going to go ahead and upload those. "22 of 32, almost done. And we're finished. So go back. And I have images in my album. So that's fantastic. So now if I go into drafts, I've got my demo essay is appearing here. I can go in to get the preview. And you may be shocked to see that it's an empty page. And that's because we've added images to the album, but we actually haven't started creating the essay yet. So an empty page is exactly what we expect. So before I show you how to create a template, why don't I go ahead and show you how the essay actually works. I'm going to edit the album. I'm going to, if you want to change the base settings or whatever, you can do that, but you want to go into page content. I'm going to grab this and give myself a larger space for writing. And just to save time for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm going to grab some lorem ipsum text, drop it in here. And this is another new feature in Backlight 4.1. We've implemented Ajax saving for albums. So just like in the designer, when you make changes and save them, you get a live update on the preview. We can also now do that when we're creating and editing albums. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to switch this on. And then I'm going to save the text that I've just added to my album. And you can see that it has now appeared in the preview area. So that's fantastic. And let's give this a title. So I'm going to use Markdown. And I'm going to call this demo essay. And there's my styled heading. Fantastic. Let's start adding images. The way we do that is you see this icon here in the preview area. This only appears when you're logged in as admin. It's a part of the essay module, and it is specifically for creating your image groups. So if I click that, it opens the image group builder. I don't know, we'll call it a builder. And so these are all the images that I've uploaded into my album. I've got some stuff here that we're going to mess with. And what I do is I'm going to take, I can select an image. I can hold down my command key on Mac and I can select multiple images. I can hold down my shift key and I can get images between, a first and a last and everything in between. So we get the images we want, we drag them over here, and that creates an image group. And then you can see that it's updated this up here with some code. We've got some options where we can tell it to use a grid or a single image. We can change the number of columns, and we can assign them to a group. So the first thing I am going to do is I am going to get one big single image that is going to be sort of like the hero for the essay. And I'm going to go ahead and just grab this one. I'm going to set this to single image. You see columns is disabled because it doesn't matter. And the group is when you click the image, it will open it in a slideshow. And so images that are in the same group have the same group ID will be navigable within a single slideshow, whereas different groups will be separate slideshows. So by default, every group is independent of all the others in the essay. But if you want multiple groups to be a single slideshow experience, then you just go in here and you make sure they all have the same name or ID. But anyway, for now, I want just one image. So I'm going to go ahead and drop it in there. And to get this, I just click on it. Then I can come over here and paste it into my text area and save that change. And there's the image. I'm going to now add a grid. So again, I launched the builder. I'm going to, we'll pick up 6 images, drag them over here. I want them to appear in 3 columns as a grid. I'm again going to leave, let's call it 1. And then I grab this and I paste it in wherever I want it to appear in my essay, and I save that change. And now I have a grid of images. And you can see I can navigate them as a slideshow. If I want this one, it's open, but I can't navigate. I'm not able to go left and right because it's in a group by itself. If I wanted that to be in the same slideshow as these, again, when I am creating it, I called the previous one, it was group 1. So now I just put a 1 here. I can copy that. I can replace what I've got. Save that change. Now when I click it, it's in the slideshow, and I can go into the other group because they have that same ID. So that's basically how it works. In the template, there are styling options for H1 headers, which is what this guy is up here. Also H2 and H3. So, if I wanted to do a subheading, I could use Markdown to do an H2 here. I'm just going to write the word subheading. Save that change, and you can see it looks a little bit different. It's sized a little differently. And then we also have H3. So again, I'm using Markdown, and I have, this is my styling. Again, you have options. You can make it look different. But what I have been doing in my essays is I use H1 and H2 for sections, and then maybe for H3, I insert a horizontal rule above it, and I can give it a little bit of some info about what the group is. So these were shot at the Botanical Gardens in Golden Gate Park. And I'm going to put a horizontal rule beneath it. And then I get this. And that's pretty much all there is to writing essays. I guess the last thing I can show you, well, we can just throw in some more groups. So I used all of this stuff. This just grab, I don't know, we'll do 8, grab these in here. I'm going to do 4 columns now, put them in group 2, copy that, paste it in. Then I'm going to drag these back. I'm going to get these 2 images, drag them here. Whoa, too many images. Remove them, and you can grab them and you can reorder them here if you want them to appear in a different order. I'm going to do these as single images, group 3, get that. I'm going to drop them here. Let's save those changes. So as you can see, that first group is 3 columns. The second group is 4 columns. And then I've got 2 singles that stack on top of each other. So you can pretty much do what you want. And now that you understand how essays are built, let me quickly dive into the template. And we're going to take this shortcut to get there. So for styling options, we've got the breadcrumbs, which you're accustomed to. They're the same controls you find in other album types. The hero image is also supported. The template copy, again, as in Pangolin album before and all of the other ones, this is text that will appear in every album that you publish. So you could, put a header or a footer above the essay content as part of the template. Image renditions, again, you're familiar with these. Essay typography. This is where you customize your headlines, subheadings, your H1, your H2, your H3. So if you don't want these options, you just want to inherit whatever is set in Pangolin page, you can turn these off. But if you want them, you leave them on. And then you can go through and you've got control over size, font, various font attributes, including font weight, alignment, all of that stuff. And I also recommend that for typography, when you're editing your Pangolin page template that these are going to use, you also set things up like the block quote styling, the horizontal rule styling, whatever else, because all of that will also be inherited and usable in your essays. We have individual controls for customizing the grid. We have controls for customizing what these single images look like. Oh, let me go back to the grid for a moment. One thing we do have here is that operates a little bit differently as compared to Pangolin album. We have the columns at screen breakpoints. These are, should be familiar sliders, but they operate a little bit differently in Pangolin essay. And that is because we set the number of columns here. So these will act on any grid that has a larger number. So what I'm at 1024 in this window. You can see I've got 1024 set to 10. But I've only got 3 here. I've got 4 here. So these numbers will kick in as we go smaller. So when I get down to 414, both groups will display only 2 columns wide. But to use this 10 for 1024, I would have to create a group with 10 columns. And if I created it with 12 columns, what would happen is at 1140, it would be 12. At 1024, it would become 10. But if I have less than 10, I will only have the number that is set for the group. I hope that's clear enough. So as a rule of thumb, you want to keep these numbers as large as possible. You can create grids of up to 12 columns. So keep these numbers large, and then when you get down into the breakpoints where you want those large numbers to start reducing, then you dial in smaller numbers. In general, though, I think you can probably just run with the defaults, and that will allow you to use, if you want a grid with 12 columns, you can have it. Okay, so yeah, you've got options for styling the single images that appear here. You do have the single image pages that allow you, we're using them for SEO. And also, if you want to disable the slideshows, you can do that in the slideshow config. I don't recommend it. I mean, we do recommend you use the slideshow because I think it's a better presentation type for this use case, but you can set that to single image pages and not use the slideshow, and that's your choice. And then we get into the metadata config. Just like in Pen, Goal, and Album in Backlight 4.0, oops, didn't mean to do that. You can switch on the metadata panel. Let me see if, hopefully I don't need any more configuration. Yeah, there we go. And you can display metadata for all of these images, just like in Pen, Goal, and Album. So you've got that full support just the same. And then in advanced setup, you can set up your downloads and your structured data. So that is pretty much it for Pen, Goal, and Essay. I hope you're excited about this. I think it really opens up possibilities for using Backlight in different ways. And for those of you who maybe don't need all of the robust blogging powers that WordPress gives you, if combining Backlight and WordPress is just too cumbersome, or you just don't need all of that, I think you can do as much writing as you need to do using Pen, Goal, and Essay and organizing it alongside your albums. And that's exactly what I'm going to be doing for my personal site. I am not using WordPress for my personal site. Yeah, so I hope you're excited to get your hands on this. If you have any questions, visit us in the forum. And otherwise, enjoy using Pen, Goal, and Essay. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.